and I have to start recording. Yeah, I'm doing this now. I want to say thank you a lot to all the team that took part in the Lyrical Gravity in production, in performative artistic work, to the Matteo as to the main artistic engine of the project. It was awesome cooperation, and our team were absolutely international, but launched as a Ukrainian-German project. And this project was funded by European Union under the House of Europe program. And I'm really grateful to House of Europe who put some fuel in this engine. Today, in general, on our public program, we tend to open up the questions connected with the co-influences of usual reality, daily practice, and virtual experiences. At the first event I talk about the virtual reality spaces as places for rituals of the future, in some sense, as a spaces of the very special regime that could be compared with the sacral sometimes. And then Sofia Bulgakova entered with her overlook on participatory practices and relations between VR artwork and the audience. And today we do have a luck to listen to Soyun Park, multidisciplinary artist from South Korea, who now is based in Hague, and I do enjoy a lot the line how Soyun came in such a technology-based artistic practices. Her origins are from Seoul, and you can imagine how fast this place is in the sense of technology, of the development of the social practices referring to VR. We can call it development or another way, but in each case this influences really a lot. And Soyun brought her artistic powers to the explorations of these new relations that appears and touches practices of all of us. So today we will talk about the safety VR experiences and amazing references just to game phenomenons and how they influence our perception of daily practice. So Soyun, please, I do welcome you to start, and you can be as free as a speaker as you wish. And please, dear audience, also we are extremely happy when you a bit open up who you are, and we can just go a bit offline just by seeing each other. It's also pleasant sometimes. And also, if Soyun will permit, you can ask questions during or maybe after, how we'll decide. Maybe it's also possible to use the chat, so be free to communicate this process and your appearing ideas on the conversation. So Soyun, please.
Thank you. Thank you for a nice introduction, Alex. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm Soyun, a multidisciplinary artist from South Korea. I'm currently based in The Hague in the Netherlands. Let me introduce a little bit of myself. Maybe I can share my screen here. Yeah, just put my website on. If you are curious, you can have a look, please. So I work as a media artist and designer, and my works are mostly films for music and stage production and theater, often in collaboration with musicians and other artists. But I also work with creative coding, which often appear as web-based projects. As you might have guessed already, I am very deeply interested in digital world and the relationship between the virtual and physical realities. Let me show you just quickly like the recent projects that I did. Okay, let me see. So this was the project that I worked with the filmmaker, that we were making these visuals for the whole stage. Also, this one was I also made the visuals and editing for films for composer called Soleil from Iceland, who I work a lot in The Hague together. This was exhibited very recently in the Netherlands Photo Museum, which is in Rotterdam, Netherlands. They asked me to provoke the idea of their own exhibition, which was called the Gallery of Honor, which they select 99 Dutch photographers to exhibit like literally Gallery of Honor. So I provoked the idea of what is the Gallery of Honor, like what is the Dutch photography? What's the reason they decided to choose this 99 photograph? So this was very recent work that I did. Okay. From this talk, I will share with you about my research that I did from late last year to the early this year for my thesis at Royal Academy of Art, The Hague. So I had some questions in my mind before starting my research, which was how do our shape of bodies, sound, and space in virtual reality influence our experience and feeling of safety? So how can we compensate for our desire for positive human communication and create virtual togetherness? So to explore this topic, I played two games, which was VRchat and the Second Life. And I realized how virtual spaces are designed, borrowing the architecture and sonic experience from reality to trigger certain interactions and actions. First of all, I will show you like just a 3 minutes video that I made this year. It's this video essay.
You don't see yourself, but you are shown. You don't see yourself, but you are shown to other people. You walk, you talk, you move your arms to fit the rhythm of your verbal storytelling. Sometimes people just walk past by without noticing you're there, and sometimes people stop and talk with you. Your voice is heard, but people don't know who you are. You've never met these people physically. I mean, in the world where gravity heavily influences your movement. But you feel more connected with them than with people who spend most of their time just 3 meters away from you within a thin wall in between. I met a guy named Nick from Illinois. When I curiously asked who it is, he happily shared his stories. His job is a truck driver. He loves to do his work, listening to music, driving all day, and loves to play VR chats at home to meet people from different places. As I told him that I am a beginner in this game, He brought me to many places, opening up portals and more portals. We went to the world we could draw everywhere, a fancy clothing shop that we could hang around, a big tent with the lights in the middle of nowhere where people were playing card games. Everywhere we went there were more people enjoying the space. Sometimes they even joined us through the portals Nick made. Everyone was having so much fun, just casually saying hi to each other. After a bunch of trips and giggles, I had to go to bed. It was 3 a.m. in the Netherlands. When I told him that I'm leaving, Nick said this to me. You know, it's not easy to meet people around the world like you, where I live. You're from South Korea and you live in the Netherlands? How cool. I would not have met you unless in this VR chat. I'm so happy that I could meet all sorts of people here. That's why I love to be here. What is your name again? Soyun?
Soyun. It was really nice to meet you, Soyun. I hope you hope to see you some other time. It's nice meeting you.
Thank you for watching. That was the video. Let's go back to my presentation. So the inventor of the web, Tim Berners-Lee, he said, there was a time when people felt that the internet was another world, but now they realize it's a tool that we use in the world. So although virtual communication and exchange of information have been always an essential part of human lives, since the invention of the web, having online identity has been playing a very important role, especially in the era of worldwide pandemic, where seeing each other in a physical space is institutionally prohibited. So we live in the era of having to do at least one video call every day with friends, family members and colleagues to keep the social stimulation and communication up to date. So technology has been further developed, that facial recognition became possible in real time. So even having face filters on these video calls have been normalized. Therefore, virtual identity became much more important than ever before, especially for the younger generations. It is very common to use large social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, day to day with their peers as a form of communication. So for them, it's not having an existence online almost means that they're not being able to be socially involved. VRchat. VRchat is a free window operating system-based community game, which has a large amount of user-made world anyone can explore. It enables users to play with a VR headset for motion tracking and to communicate with other users in avatars. So the reason why I got fascinated by VRchat is there are lots of YouTubers, they post videos online, like the stories that they had in the VRchat. And then I realized they are very, very intimate. Like people talk about their very, very special lives, stories. They just talk in the VRchat to random people. So I was wondering what made them too open to this random people about their lives. And even it's very difficult in real life, but how is it enabled to make it possible here? So to explore this, I played VRchat going in and out to different rooms and communicate with other users to see how the experience is different or similar to real life. So this is the space, which is introduced to users when just starting the game. So it's a room. It is similar to our own room in the physical world, where we have the most privacy, because this exists because you exist. Here, how you are is your choice. You can be anything, a truck, a dog, an anime character, Darth Vader, or a person you want it to be. Once you've chosen your avatar, you can step into the shining portal, which leads you to a completely different place. So after looking through all sort of different identity, I chose to be a dog because I always wanted to be a dog. So this is the portal that you can go through. There are lots of other things that you don't have to go through. You can just jump into different rooms. Here I encounter a very interesting object. It's called mirror. While you're walking around the virtual universes, you will encounter multiple areas where people line up in front of a wall and have a chat. So this is a very popular activity in VRchat, which made me curious to know the reason why. If you turn on the button on the side, you can activate the mirror, duplicating and mirroring everything in front of it. So most people decide to stay for long in front of this plane and observe how their own body shows by moving two VR controllers in their hands. So despite the sense of self-existence in the world of VRchat, it is not too easy to visually recognize yourself, not only because you don't see yourself, but also because you don't have the same physical appearance that you've had for many years. So these mirrors help the users identify the existence of their physical bodies. So looking at the same site triggers conversations already. So people say, look at me, I can make this body movement, like, what, can you do this too? Maybe I can move it like this. So this activity brings a bonding experience between the users sharing the same information. So among all these fantasy, imaginary, intriguing places in VRchat, looking at the mirror altogether is one of the most common activities that the users spend a lot of time on. So here in front of the mirror, users understand each other's existence and have the urge to communicate. Let me quickly show you in the background. I went to the place called Courtroom.
Open the door. Shut up. Open the door. Open the door. Don't open the door. Open the door.
You can hear children speaking.
Open the door.
Children's VRchat as well. They were very loud, very jumpy.
Sir, can you please open the door? Bullshit.
Put it down.
No, don't open the door, please. Open the door. Open the door.
So this is the courtroom, and I found also very fascinating. I just ended up there just by accident, and then turned out it is the place that you role play as people who will be in the courtroom. So like judges, one judge and the prosecutor and defense lawyer, and then also the person who made the crime. So we had to discuss, like, if you are given a role, I had to be in the role, and I have to protect the murderer. In this case, they made it up, and then I just got into it, and then I was like so panicking, like, what do I do?
Yes, I understand.
They were really making up stories, like why this murderer is on the court right now, and why we have to protect it, or why we have to arrest him, or something like this. So judge makes this story up and then tell us what to do. It was quite fascinating because since my childhood, I never did role play like this before. Like you used to do, I don't know, kitchen toys, and then you just pretend that you are making something, for example, or you make something up in the stories in your mind and project it on your toys. And this was like bringing back the childhood memories. And then I played with children as well, so that was really fun. I'm laughing in the video. So anyways, in this courtroom, there was also an evidence room, which made me like feel very fascinated, because this evidence room is simple as that's just a room with a lot of objects, and then you go in there and then you pick one object. Here you can see like clock or like broken laptop and money, and then you bring it out and then you have to make up stories to support your argument. So the evidence room is such a simple method, but it was also adding a lot to the game. One of the spaces which also pushed my curiosity was a railway station called Hwabon. It's called the Hwabon Station. It was written in Korean and there was a fair bit of user traffic going in and out. So personally, physically moving out of my home country for 6 years already, I had a feeling of going back when I arrived to this place. So it was similar to how I felt whenever I traveled back to South Korea for a short trip. Walking to the station, covered in snow, I noticed a very familiar song being played in the background. It was like, it's every Korean knows this song. The funny thing is this song plays when the underground train arrives at the station, so it's like a station song. So in Korea, there are two distinctive carriages with different railway companies, and this song was played underground. But now in the Hwabon station, it's upground. So that was funny. So I could associate the space right away, where vehicles constantly stop by carrying and then carry people to the next station. So I couldn't stop laughing how cheeky it is to play this song at the South Korean railway station themed space in VRchat. When I was walking in the map, I could see Korean. I could hear Korean everywhere. People were discussing something personal and doing inside jokes. But like, funnily enough, that I just didn't know how to start a new conversation in Korean as a stranger, because I have two slightly different personalities in Korean and English. So people who learned another language and moved to a different country in their adulthood will understand the personality differences between their mother tongue and another language they speak. Because the language comes with a cultural background, of course. So Korean language consists of two different types of expressions. One is very polite, which people speak to strangers with. People who you don't really know, you have to use the polite expressions. And age is very important, because also when you're older, I mean, you are talking to older people, then you have to use this polite expression. So because of this reason, when I speak South Korean to strangers, I become a person who is very careful not to come across rude. So if I want to approach a group of new people that I don't know, I should indeed use the polite expression rather than a playful hi. So I couldn't reach the people easily because firstly I had to speak with a polite expression, which is already a bit awkward and careful. And then secondly, the group of people were already speaking in very informal expressions, which means they are already good friends. So I wasn't brave enough to interfere with the group to ruin their friendly fun. So I realized when the virtual space strongly resembles the real space and brings the culture of it, it also brings my real self, which made me act the same as I do back in the real space. So in this case, it's South Korea. So it is an interesting discovery for me, since I thought people can have many constructed personas in VR, but my real personality was revealed through the space at this Hwabon station. Now we're going to Second Life. So in this other virtual game called Second Life, I experienced how it is designed to be intentionally indistinguishable between reality and the game and the consequences. So Second Life is an online virtual world developed by a company, Lindan Lab, in San Francisco, 2003. It's been a little bit older than VRchat. So unlike VR chats full of anime and imaginary characters as avatars, the majority users of Second Life represent themselves in human-like forms. It rapidly grew its community to approximately 1 million users in 2013, but it's been declining over the years. So it is used to support the function VR, but they discontinued because they failed the VR platform they were developing. So I found it very interesting that the game is almost a complete replica of life in the physical world. So it has a fully functioning financial ecosystem with a currency called Linden Dollar. It doesn't look like this, but it's dealt with numbers, of course, which can be used for purchasing clothes, properties, furniture, and pets virtually. So 2,500 Linden Dollar is approximately $10 US. But maybe I'm thinking this might be a reason why it felt like a dystopia for me when I started exploring Second Life for the first time. To be honest, I couldn't stay there for long. So this is an avatar shop. First you go into the game, then you get to choose avatars that you want to choose, and there are not many options. They're mostly humanoids, and if you go to the shop, then you can buy these avatars. So looking at these options of avatars, we can observe how much this game is designed to be reality-like. So in Second Life, I had to choose my gender between 3 options: women, men, and gender neutral. So having to choose my identity in a visual form is not an easy task. It involves question and decisions. So like, do I like to have a different hairstyle than my real hair? Or do I want to try darker skin tone or brighter skin tone? Do I want to have different gender or myself? So due to similarity and realness of the characters in terms of human appearances, I tend to think that the avatars I choose will represent what I secretly wish for. So thinking that being a male avatar will prevent having online sexual harassment, I chose to be a man. So not that I experienced many harassment cases in online games, but it happens so often in real life, sadly. So I felt much safer as a man since the avatars are in human forms. So these are the options. It's crazy, right? It just crazy. I don't know what to say. Like it's like a shop that you can, I don't know, almost a vending machine or something. So this shop for choosing my physical identity truly shocked me. It was completely reflecting the capitalistic society we live in, where the beauty that we are taught to find beautiful was on sale. So funnily, the music playlist of the shop was something pop and overly happy, excited, but like cool for youngsters music. We can normally hear it at fast fashion clothing shops such as H&M and Zara. So thanks to the background information from real life, I immediately associated this place as a fast, easy, and trendy shop which encourages mass purchases. So although the commodity we deal with here is our identities. So this is the furniture shop. So as I mentioned earlier, you can just go to buy a property of yourself and then buy a house and build a house, and you can just form your house. But the differences between VRchat and Second Life here is you buy those things here with the Linden dollars. So you can see it's a complete replica of the space. It almost feels like you are in IKEA or something. So as you see in this screen capture, Second Life constantly shows the avatar of the user in the view, like here, like you see in the middle view. And then in this way, the users are more conscious of what they're wearing, which can naturally lead them to the clothing shops. So I didn't really like this leather jacket, but you know, I try not to fall in the trap. A little warning for maybe young audience. Maybe there's no young audience. I think younger than adults. So this is a sex shop that I was in the Second Life. I teleported to another area randomly, and I just literally said, what the fuck? And this was my reaction when I landed in this place. This looked like it is for adults, meaning a sex content shop. In this shop, many avatars were naked or wearing very exposed and sexy clothes. On the wall, there were numerous pornographic videos displayed to be chosen. They were depicting mostly women, whether it was an actual human or not, in very sexualized forms. So these adult contents were also on sale, which people could buy with Linden dollars. Another explicit screenshot coming. At this point, I thought the name of this game is quite well illustrating what this game is about. It is really a life we already have, but a second life, which we have as an addition. So this is the most blunt way of revealing what we have been familiarizing ourselves with, I thought. So also some sort of exciting pop music is constantly playing in the background to remind the shopping malls and mall department stores where the transaction happens. The transitions between songs are seamless, like the one from DJ, like they aim to confuse audience with endless concept of time on the dance floor. So the songs are similar but sure different. However, it is hard to grasp when the song is over because it just kept going. The users fall into the hole where the time is intentionally stretched. So many other users sent me overly friendly automated messages selling their products, videos and photo files and folders, adults contents, of course, which I will get as folder directories of bunch of contents after a purchase. Our physical body movement is limited to what resources we have. It is not different in the virtual space for our virtual bodies. So this place, like, I think I'm missing a slide here, but there was a shop of movement shop. This place was on the list on hot places that game organization Linden picked and promoted. There were numerous vending machines from which users could buy their dance movement. So depending on the dance, the price varied from $500 Linden, which is like $2, to $2,500, which is $10 US. So in spite of the fact that it is not something that is touchable or tangible, the identity we create online is our projected self to some extent. We associate, resonate, and act as one with the avatars. So the virtual space is designed to make our virtual identity interact with other personas in the generated world. While myself feeling a bit of discomfort for everything in this world being commodified and beautified, this is also one of the reasons why the users quickly understand the system and engage with the other users, bringing financial profits to the game. So everything is designed to be very familiar. The reward system, ideal beauty, sexualizing women, the currency, the desire for possession, and even religious activities. For example, the church services, meditation, and also Muslim mosque. So this is the video of wedding. I will show you a little bit. Waited and we prayed. The wedding in. Oh, darling, say my name. Having a wedding is also one of the rituals that users can do with their lover, which is surprisingly the same process as there are branches of small business growing in the wedding, business, just like the one we are familiar with in real life. So wedding planner, wedding photographer, videographer, venues, attire designer, DJ, flowers and cakes. So these reality copied services are, they don't only give the ecosystem of the game, but also add the validity of the experience. So due to these reasons, it's not very common. No, it's not too uncommon to see the cases of the game and reality collide. If you search a little bit on Google, you can find out that there are a lot of articles about couples they break up because they cheated on their partner in Second Life, for example. A lot of cases. So the stories are mostly about couples struggling to find out their partners having secondary relationships in the game. So all of these cases led to actual divorce or breakup or leaving distrust and anger between them. So at this point, the discussion of if virtual cheating still counts or not is not a fresh topic anymore. We live in the era that it is impossible to completely divide our reality and what we do digitally. So their digital self became their actual selves, not only as an representation. People ended in divorce in real life because of their partners in Second Life. So with the influence of virtual spaces designed in a complete synchronization with reality, conflict and confusion can happen back in reality. So experiencing the worlds myself, I found that recreating familiarity of the experience that we've been having in physical spaces plays a very important role to engage with the virtuality. So the places made me feel nostalgia, had the architecture of the train station in South Korea. The place made me feel formal and put myself in a role of illustrating a courtroom that I often saw on the news. Also, the music that I used to hear in the fast fashion clothing shops were used for the virtual space that encourages purchases. So, and also there is a small bar where the locals would gather was so loud with people chatting next to each other that I couldn't be there without getting drunk. So at this bar in VRchat, the 3D model of the space was very small, like a real local bar, and then all the sound around other people talking was coming from very close by. So people were singing and talking loud in any other real bars. So to enjoy the space without getting irritated, it was better to be drunk myself and speak as loud as other people. So these real bars the real beers in my fridge helps in this case. So even in the very fantastical rooms, it had elements to feel very familiar. So we understand the logics and the physics system and react with the thoughts of how we will interact with other users. The resemblance of life in a virtual space was one of the keys making the division between the two worlds very blurry. So what does it mean to have bodies in VR? The virtual environment provides flexibility for us to be someone else, which means that we can perform and act out in different bodies. So in both games that I experienced, the users projected themselves into a body called an avatar. So these avatars represent the identity of the users and allow role play in the game. Being in these virtual selves, people can free themselves from restrictions of their own physical bodies. However, when the virtual spaces strongly resemble real life, it can bring the familiar issue that we have in reality. So in Second Life, the majority of people had to have their avatars in a human form. Then why would anyone want to choose an ugly face when they can pay for pretty face? So bringing back to the restriction of our own bodies made the users pursue the ideal type of its form. So in other words, the game is designed to push the limits of beauty standards to make the identity market profitable. So on the other hand, the identity didn't have many borders in the VR chats. Anyone could become anything, even a small ant, a skyscraper. This also means the users don't get obsessed with the best human forms, which follow the body standards. This reduces chances of being exposed to highly sexualized contents. So bodies of the users don't have any categorization or pre-perception. Therefore, it didn't bring any prejudgment. Freedom of bodies contributed to creating a safe environment. So the roles created by these avatars heavily affect the user experience and culture around it in VR. Since Second Life at the beginning only allowed the users to be humans, so it created the same roles and environment as it is in real life. So like I mentioned earlier, as a female user myself, I chose to be a male character because I didn't feel safe to be around male strangers in a female body. Having a female body brings consequences. So sexualization, being a commodity, body shaming, and so on. So despite the possibilities of this VR technology, my roles were still limited to gender, clothing, movement, and body in the world. These components in Second Life created a place where everyone chases their capitalistic fantasies. This is a VR chat. All these avatars look completely insane. I will introduce an experiment that someone else did. This is a therapeutic program, which was made in Germany. Joshua Rothman, the editor of NewYorker.com, shares a fascinating experience with virtual reality in his article called "Are We Already Living in Virtual Reality?" on New Yorker. Joshua went into a virtual world with the VR goggles in this program created by the researcher called Mel Slater. So it's called Mel Slater's lab. Before starting the program, he was, as you can see in the picture, he was 3D scanned by an imaging system. So it captured the whole body of him, his shirt and jeans and shoes. So when he entered the virtual world, he could look into a large mirror to see himself, like you see in the left here. So in front of him, this guy is Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was sitting at his own desk in his white shirt and gray suit. That's the experiment. Then I will show you a little video that they published.
Please look down towards your body. Raise your right hand. Now look in the mirror to your left. When the light next to you turns green, explain the problem to the person in front of you.
So, when I notice that I am delaying going to the gym after I come back from work, I think that I should go because I want to take care of my health.
Now listen to the person in front of you, and when the light next to you turns green, reply and try to help them find a solution.
So, when I notice that I am delaying going to the gym after I come back from work. Okay, so why do you think that you delay? Why do you think that you're not going? What seems to be the problem?
Why do you think that you delay? Why do you think that you're not going? What seems to be the problem? What seems to be stopping you?
That seems interesting. Can you tell me a bit more about it?
So you can watch it maybe later if you time. So in this simulation, he experiences in being in different bodies. So Freud and himself. So to discuss the stress he personally had, he asked questions to Freud, and then the world shifted, and soon he was in Freud's body, looking at his own self. He writes in the article that even though he was technically talking to himself, watching his world shifting and being in someone else's body made him feel like he was having a conversation. In this case, we can observe how experiencing different bodies in VR can function for also therapeutic purposes. But the bodies are not the only architectural components in the game affecting the experience, which I will introduce soon. This place that Joshua was in VR exercising virtual embodiment shows more elements that I found very important, considering my own experience in those two games earlier. Okay. So the researcher of this VR experiment said, on the same level, the brain doesn't know the difference between real reality and virtual reality. The virtual spaces in both games are constructed with intentions to enhance the user engagement to the direction they aim to go for. So the room Joshua was at with Freud was very much resembling the possible reality where they might have had a conversation as if the Freud was still alive. Like, okay, going back to this room. Here, of course, there was a very familiar object, a mirror, where he could find himself appearing as familiar as in VRchat. So the self-identifier mirrors for sure worked as helpers for him to understand this impossible situation to be true. So in this simulation, his brain might have been tricked to understand the situation as reality. So these objects do not only function in a visual aspect, but also to make the viewers believe in simulations. So they are often replicas like mirrors, chairs and desks, doors. The concept of doors as a portal, very familiar for us. The magical object letting the users going through the different place, the floors, the ceilings, and so on. Let's go back to the lecture. So this guy is Jeremy Bailison. I really enjoyed this lecture. In this lecture at Stanford University in 2018, an environmental scientist, Jeremy Bailison, mentions how realistic the combat training games are, as much as it being used for soldiers. He continued his lecture explaining that many researchers proved that after being exposed to the violence as consumers with these games, you are more likely to become more comfortable with the concept in reality. So he suggests the standard for violent games. He says, one of the suggestions is in shooting games, the bullets shouldn't go straight. It should go in a different directions where the users shoot. And the enemies the gamers should eliminate shouldn't be humanoid shaped size and move in a trajectory that humans do. Of course, this is not being considered in making games, meaning that the violent game design has to have obvious different logics to the reality which the users are familiar with. It is to prevent them from understanding the game as their extended reality. So the suggestion he gave in this lecture tells the difficulties that the action VR games are facing to separate the users from confusion. This also means that on the other hand, the architectural elements grabbing the reality to the VR space blur the line between two realities even more. So it should be constructed with care and right intention. Because how the space is displayed in VR is such an important part of the experience, it equals the maker's intention. The room can be zero gravity without any object for a simulating dreamy environment, or full of objects on the ground to create a familiar showroom selling products. Depending on the purpose, the influence is made on the users. The talk is almost going to the end, almost. This is This is the experiment earlier that I showed. So I will. Secondly, the elements that I mentioned earlier that it is important in VR space, it's sonic elements. We can point out that the voices of the bodies, going back to the story of being Freud. Joshua talked in his own voice to Freud, which was recorded and played when he was in Freud's body. So looking at himself as a third person, hearing himself talking, made his brain to believe that he was talking to a different person. To have a sense of presence in VR, there should be a sense of sound localization as much as sense of being represented by avatars. It means that we should be able to understand where the sound is coming from and what sort of resonance it makes, far or close, left or right, in a church or a small room, to localize as close as it does in the physical space. The experience of sound is crucial for increasing user engagement in virtual spaces, so it often replicates the real physics locating the source of sound, which makes it feel even more real. We can sort out these important sonic components for the virtual experience in 3 different groups. First, distinguishable sound source. So we can ask if the sound is the voice, or is it human-like, or if so, is it female or male? How old does the voice suggest? And is the sound of something cracking? So on. So in VRchat, I could orient myself by understanding the people with their voices. The young kids' voices gave me so much joy and playfulness, and the older man's explanation as a judge gave me a good sense of indication for my new journey in this game. So these are structures of sound like human voices and sound effects, which inform us certain images. So understanding the user's experience and the nature, the sound designers can create these images accordingly for desired simulations. When Joshua was in the VR program, he spoke as Freud in Freud's body. So when he became himself again, he could hear that what he spoke as Freud replayed in old man's lower toned voice. It was very different to hear to his real voice that he spoke. So here the modification of sound is an essential part to be Freud. This helped Joshua recognize who he was talking to, which led him to envision his simulation very easily. So his brain threw him into it. So these distinguishable sound sources are a powerful, convincing method for understanding what virtual spaces suggest. Secondly, music with certain context. In other words, background information. It is known that music has been a form of communication which shares certain meanings and emotions. In a book of Lyndon C.S. Way and Simon Mackerel, called Music as Multimodal Discourse, describe this well, borrowing other scholars' words here in the sheet, which means some scholars believe in the ability of music to represent and promote socio-political interests of particular cultural values. Meanwhile, it can also promote the idea of large cooperation together with the context of consumption, which can suggest potential meaning in pop music, like the shops in the Second Life. Music can bring meanings and context depending on the time it was produced, where it was produced, where it is promoted, by whom it is produced, and so on. So hearing certain types of music in virtual space sometimes triggers emotional throwback and memories like I did at the Korean railway station in VRchat, or encouraged me some actions like fast purchases at a face shop in Second Life. Bringing contextual meanings of music is another powerful method for forming the convincing environment in a virtual space. The third one is 3D audio effect. The sound sources are already located in the 3D environment. In VRchat, the users can hear the sound from all sort of different directions and identify the location of the sound in 3 dimensions. Let's imagine being at a small pub in VRchat, like I experienced in VRchat. These are many people, there were many people sitting close to each other and chatting. People are everywhere and the avatars have different heights. So the sound feel like it's coming from many directions, close or far, left or right, up and down. The sound reacts accordingly if I turn my head around. So if I'm curious about the conversation that some funny characters having a bit far away from me, I can physically move my avatar to go to close them to listen better. So as I mentioned earlier, at first when I visited a bar, I was stressed by the noisy environment where people sat and talk right next to each other in small space. So before my intoxication level was not yet high enough with my beers, I promptly moved to a toilet, public toilet in VRchat, where there was a bit of peace, like I do in a real pub. It was relatively quiet because there were not many people around me there. So this direct reflection of sound of the physical change in reality to the virtual space makes the user believe as if I'm talking with another user right next to me. This enhances communication between users and makes them feel connected to each other in the game. Would you like to say something, Alex?
Oh yes, yes, I would like to. Can I? I just lost a bit with how you explained on avatars in VRchat. So you can choose only from one album, the same as in Second Life, or you can create them by yourself. You can create.
Yeah, you can create them.
It's you can create this from your own like surfaces and colors and things, etc., or only from like palette of them.
So it can be literally anything that you have 3D model of.
So if you have a 3D model, you can go with it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
just a small thing, and in general it's so like for me it's very extreme conversation today. It's something about absolutely other types of apperception and of experiences, and I really have a lot of emotions and thoughts about all that you Soyun showed today. And to go to numbers, maybe can you point in some sizes the level of popularity for VRchat and for Second Life?
I don't really exactly know how many.
Do you think this is quite interesting, to understand the numbers sometimes, of the audience or of this and that thing? I will Google it and propose to everybody.
Yeah. But the thing that I can be sure of is Second Life is really declining. VRchat is quite rising up. And then I think Second Life is almost dead, to be honest, but it's still going though.
And when the Second Life appeared, showed on the market?
Yeah, so that was I wrote it down. I think it was 2008 or something.
Yeah, so about like previous decade, yeah. So the understanding of this like vintage smell in some sense, yeah, of the Second Life is very powerful, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody from the audience have some remarks, questions, things that they noticed and you noticed and want to share. So please be free to ask, to talk.
Yes, please. I have a very small last chapter, then I will introduce that first, and then
yeah, let's go there.
Discussion. Yeah. So with to conclude this story, so with these observations, I realized how the virtual spaces are designed very purposefully and intentionally. So with all sort of different types of spaces, the makers can really create the interactions between users. So, and these interactions can be very honest verbal conversations, role-playing games, triggering nostalgia and feeling at home for some people, but also encouraging purchases and promoting beauty standards and possession. So regardless, it is true that the virtual spaces have been a friend of many people. So it is not seen in the physical, tangible space, but it's making so many cultures, communities, friendships, love, and relationships around it. So before I did this research, the world I imagined the virtual space were mostly some sort of like fantasy spaces where magical things happen. Then I realized a lot of things were actually brought from reality to VR with very sharp intentions. So overall in the research, I found that the virtual spaces can be designed borrowing the architecture and sonic experience from reality to trigger certain interactions and actions, like I mentioned earlier. So depending on the system and the architecture in the game, the world could become an extremely capitalistic society or creative space where people feel safe and chat. So people feel connected to the space where they are familiar with. Although the fantasy world also exists, how much they resemble reality affects the users to engage with the space to identify themselves. So I believe it is important to know how these crucial elements as a creator when forming a space influencing virtual culture and interaction. So especially in this very difficult pandemic situation where we spend a lot of time alone, we often miss human communication and we have desire to be with other people in the same place. So luckily this VR technology is developed to the point that we could even simulate a person sounding like talking right next to the user. But most importantly, I think it is the maker's responsibility to create a healthy and creative environment which encourages to build a positive community. So throughout research, I hope with the right direction of designing digital spaces, they can compensate for our desire for positive human communication and create this virtual togetherness together. Thank you for listening. That was the...
Thank you, Soyun. It was extremely interesting. I'm really feel the dive into those types of experiences that I sincerely say never have. And here it's also a strong feeling of the research approach, and I'm very grateful to you for sharing this. It's really interesting.
I'm glad to hear that.
Maybe somebody from the audience has a question, has a remark. Oh, we have something on the chat.
Oh yeah, I see.
Alokula writes us, "Hi, Soyun and Alexandra. I was wondering, how did you happen to experience these two, social VR with a PC VR or mobile VR, and if you noticed yourself losing track of time in real life, or sometimes just noticing yourself thinking as if you naturally were that avatar." I read this article, which I forgot the author name, unluckily, but near the ending, there was this phrase saying you realize that you are in VR only when you bump into something. So what will be your comments, Yuna?
So does it mean that you sort of lost your senses, that distinguishing your different realities? Is that the
Maybe this like VR fatigue is mentioned here.
I don't know if I yeah, so Lakula answered, yeah, in the sense, I guess. Yeah, well, my friend, he told me that he was watching Netflix on VR. So there's Oculus, there's a function that you can watch Netflix in VR, and then you are in this giant mansion, and then sit down, and then there's a TV, and then you watch it. And then, yeah, I don't know why that was entertaining, but it was entertaining for him. And then when he took it off, he realized how small his own TV is. And then he got a little bit depressed for that. And that's yeah, that's an interesting story that I thought.
Yes, I guess this is like very life true illustration. I think that this has even can have even medical cases for overusing things like Second Life. It's really dangerous for like mental well-being. Complicated case. Yeah, and we have a question from Sapo. Please, could you you would like to ask us? Yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
Hi.
So like you talked about your friend watching Netflix in VR, and that made me remind me on some experiment I saw on YouTube. Like there was a YouTuber, I don't know if you know the experiment, but he was like in VR for 1 or 2 weeks. Like basically he had the VR class on the whole time. He had some help when he had to go to the toilet or something, but he actually never took off like the VR. And he also said that like after a couple of days he could tell like the difference except of the like the physical body experience. And like when he took off the VR, he just said that the only difference was like that he could like touch things actually. So I'm kind of flashed also by your lecture because I just got started into VR or like the whole virtual reality thing. So don't get me wrong when don't know what to say right now because I'm quite nervous, let's say it that way. Because like you said, so many things which are were so interesting. Also the possibilities in VR for creating a positive community, because like we all are like searching some sort of positive human connection. And yeah, I just wanted to say like the experiment, and I would love to go on, but actually like there are so many things I would like to say, so I wish to just stop here and just want to thank you for like lecture, like both of you.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Because yeah, the theme is very like highly emotional because it's you understand that really a lot of people making this quite a strange thing, and some of them project their imagination of the market interrelations in a society, not in a society, in a group, and others just in experimenting and developing their images by their own, by their ability to create something in 3D. Yeah, they're limited on this. And yes, this theme is highly attractive and really provokes a lot of imagination on the future relations between the couples who are ready to be divorced because of VRchat intrigue. Yes, or VRchat Second Life. So this quite a shocking content from time to time. And what about like sexual exploitation? There also it exists. So the reflection of the offline world is really intensive there, and the shade of this only maybe shades of like this, their ideological even directions of that divide these different human approaches. So the theme is hot. Please be open to say your remarks, to open up maybe some more questions. Oh, I see on a chat also the message from Vahram Akimyan. I hope I pronounced right. Metaverse is a phenomenon of developing worlds within one big virtual space. How will it change our behavior? So from a point of metaverse, quite a complicated thing, huh? Soyun.
Yeah, thank you, Sapo, for your opinion. It was very nice to hear from audience's point of view. Yeah, thanks for the question, metaverse. Yeah, I think I am at the stage of getting to know better at this point. There were already lots of physical reflected events happening, as far as I know, like in an art world, like the museums and galleries, they are replicated or they're reproduced in the metaverse. That's what I know. If you would like to a little bit introduce about what you think of metaverse, you're welcome to share with us, please. Would he appear?
Vahram, would you?
No sound. Oh yeah.
No sound. Scheiße.
Yeah, but I'd love to dive into more, and that's one of my next project in line that I would like to research more on this, because I have friends who are constantly experimenting on it, and I don't know much about it. And probably maybe that's almost like the future, or we already in the future of this, because it might completely change the perception of like our visiting art galleries or visiting somewhere, like what is the ownership of this physicality. And yeah, I think there are lots of topics that we can discuss from there. Yeah, the next question, did you also try to work in a virtual creative space inside the VR? Yeah, no, not yet, but I'm very curious also as well. Because there are devices that you can create things, right? Oh yeah, I also have a friend who does 3D art, and she had a date with a guy who in her VR space that she created. So she made it her own room, and then she placed her artwork there, like moving and the crazy colors, and then she invited him over. So they had a little tour and then they had a really good time on the date. So that was quite mind-blowing for me. Yeah, I asked her like, how did it go? You know, it's the same as real life. And then she said, yeah, it was so nice. He saw my work. And yeah, it's a crazy world that we live in.
So, anyone else?
I have another question. Will you plan to have more Zoom meetings to talk about things like that?
Me or?
Yeah, or both of you.
So the public program of the project of the Lyrical Gravity is finished with this event. Unfortunately, it was 2 very nice weeks, and I hope that in general we will continue. Maybe Soyun has sooner plans for public talks.
No, I don't. I
did
not to anymore. for some time, I was. I think it takes quite a dedication to create this sort of talks, which I really love.
Yeah, it takes.
That's fair.
Yeah. But maybe in VRchat anonymously.
Yeah. Maybe we can all meet in VRchats. Talk about.
I need to dive in this once.
Yeah.
I also never really tried this.
Oh,
I'm actually excited to try this even more now. You talked a lot about your experience, also about the guy. I forgot his name. I guess the name started with the N. I'm not sure. Like the guy who gave you like a private tour through the VR rooms, or did I?
Nick.
Yeah, right. That sounds quite interesting. And you talked about a lot of different places you'll visit. And yeah, I'm actually like pretty excited to also try this out and to have my own to get my own experience on that. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. So, darlings, we spent, I guess, 1 hour and a half nearly in this warm company, and maybe now we're finished or not finished, or somebody wants to say something. Huh? Be sincere in this, please, and open. Oksana Chpelik asks if we are planning to put this meeting on YouTube. Yes, all the materials from the project will be published in just in several days. We have our channel on YouTube, and there you could see all the public program events, also materials, educational materials from the Open Labs educational part of the project that we organized on different direction, like work in virtual reality with the sound, for example. Yeah, we have such a course. We have a course on performance in virtual spaces, and so on. And this will be also available whenever you want on a YouTube, just to learn some things, just to look through somebody's course to get some practical knowledges. And also after a while we'll also, you can see now at the at our website the results of the project Lyrical Gravity, and maybe analyze those like general lines of this space, this music-based performative thinking, this other approach to pop culture that is more about shared things, and think about it in a like more positive context sometimes. And also yes, you could see all these materials. I'll put all the links to the event on the Facebook. And thank you for question.
Yeah, thank you so much everyone for being here and listening to this long talk until like really dinner time. I hope you enjoy your dinner, and yeah, thank you for the message.
I do feel that audience do. Super, thank you, Soyun.
Thank you.
So thank you all. Thank you for visiting us. This was a last event of the Lyrical Gravity Public Program, and this warm feeling is the best for the final point. So really, thank you.
Yeah, I would like to thank you again. Also, I have to leave the chat now, but as I said, you wrote a lot of more interest in me. Also, as I said, I also would like to experience even more with that. Also want to read more literature about this. And yeah, thank you for having this Zoom talk, answered my question or our questions. Yeah, I hope to see more of you guys. And that is it. So,
Heads up.
bye.
Oh, thank you.
Nice evening, all of
Bye.
you. Okay.